Chapter 2 Remedial History. The following afternoon saw Rafael, Tessa, and Stephen back at the academy. Tessa stood at the front of a classroom, trying to regain the attention of the first year intake of the Ironbark Academy students. When was the convergence? Tessa asked, bringing focus back to the front of the room. She gestured to a drawing on the front board depicting a scene of intense chaos overtaking a crowded city. A long time ago? One of the students in the first row interjected. As best we can say, the convergence took place about 500 years ago. Records from the time tend to be fragmented, unreliable, or both, as the people struggled to comprehend what was happening, let alone document it. Now for the big one. What was the convergence? Asked Tessa. Things got really weird. No, aliens invaded. No, my uncle says the old gods came back. Easy, easy. These are all good answers, Tessa interjected. But the truth is, nobody knows exactly what happened. Researchers have only been able to examine the consequences. She shifted, then continued. What we do know is that the world changed almost overnight. Archaeological expeditions across multiple continents have uncovered wide-spanning cities and other features that indicate the past had a much larger human population, while oral histories maintain that the event was responsible for... Stefan turned to Rafael at the back of the room. Looks like she's got this covered. How are you holding up? When'd you find out? Last night. Ranger Captain Price came to the hut, told me that. Rafael paused, knuckles tightening as a distant expression came over his face. Told me they'd found her body in the scrub not far out of town. Did they tell you what happened? Stephen asked, his usually buoyant demeanour subdued by an uncharacteristically pensive expression. Not exactly. It looked like she'd been bitten by something, but they hadn't worked out what yet. Asked me a bunch of questions I don't have answers to. I still don't, to be honest. Yeah, like what? Like what she'd been up to? Working, I said. She'd been pretty busy for a while, what with hazard season coming up. Is that it? No, they asked a bunch of the usual stupid stuff. Did she have any enemies? Did anyone make any threats? That kind of thing. Everybody loved your mum, or at least respected her, eh? Stephen looked away at this, eyes tracing the perimeter of the hardwood floor. Yeah, I know she could be tough. Not too bloody well, to be honest, but it doesn't take the sting out. Wouldn't even feel real, except they took me to see her. Raph paused, features tightening as the distant look returned. Well, if there's anything me or Tess can do for you, let us know. We're here for you, mate. Yeah, thanks, Steve-o, Raph replied absently. I mean it, mate. For starters, we'll come round tonight and help you sort out dinner. Stephen gave his friend a tight squeeze on the shoulders. I'll tee up Tessa when she's done here. Ahead, Tessa continued with her delivery. So, from what we can gather, most of the larger settlements on the North American continent were devastated. Even today, the company struggles to carve out a foothold against the powerful forces and phenomena that now inhabit the region. She paused, the quizzical expression on the face of the student in the front row causing her to repeat. Questions at the end, remember? We've got a lot to cover and I'm doing my best to hit all the important bits for you. Europe seems to have fared a little better. After the destruction of the major cities, the people appear to have learned to live in equilibrium with the new dynamic, more in tune with the stories and practices that we've come to call the traditions. But that's a whole other lesson, so get ready for that one. Many at the time must have believed the world was ending, and a great crusade around the world led many of faith to the Holy Land, where war continues to rage to this very day between adherents of the old faith, the new faith, and the beings of that land. Terrible spirits of fire and dust clash with many-winged, many-eyed forms of ethereal incomprehension, whilst their mortal adherents spill blood by the gallon. Those few who have returned claim feverishly that the conflict must continue, or the terrible forces will be unleashed to reign over the planet. Asia and Africa have proven difficult to communicate or trade with reliably. From what we hear, the situation for most is similar to the uneasy equilibrium of the European continent, but the borders of each region are treacherous and difficult to navigate without a sizable undertaking, an act which carries its own inherent risks. Tessa slowed for a moment, scanning the crowd for comprehension before continuing. Does anyone know why that might be? Silence reigned over the classroom as feet shuffled gracelessly, stirring up dust and causing it to plume towards the extraction vents in the ceiling. I heard too many people draws the eyes of the spirits, ventured one student, speaking from the back of the room without making eye contact. Yeah, that's what I heard too, Jimothy. That's why we try to keep our colony sizes small. Less than 100 heads per square kilometre seems to be the sweet spot for avoiding unwanted phenomena or spontaneous outbreak of dangerous creatures. Tessa adjusted the lectern, moving on to the last piece of drawn material. Anyway, that's as good a summary of the state of the world over the last 500 years or so as I can give. Now it's your turn to poke holes in my knowledge and ask those questions you've been burning to get out there. Tessa turned her attention back to the students in front of her. I don't want to hear anything out of the two of you, she added, looking directly at where Stephen and Raf stood at the back of the room, both of whom had eagerly raised arms and extended tongues, keen to give their friend a bit of stick while they had the chance. Almost immediately, questions began coming in thick and fast from the captive student audience. Miss Tess, what's the company? What are the traditions? What happens if we get too many people together?
Do they have rangers in Africa too?
What's the strangest thing you've seen on patrol? How many faiths are there then?
What was the ancient world like?
Tessa extended one hand firmly, calling for quiet. Easy all, I'll try and cover as much as I can in the time I have left. End chapter 2.